Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. If you have not already, please make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you'll receive notifications whenever I post a new video. Corica and I are back, and today we have Charlotte with us, and we're just continuing the conversation on motherhood. Just some backstory again, if this is the first video that you may be watching, is that Corica and I had a conversation some months ago, just kind of talking about motherhood, where we were with it, and how we felt that it was necessary to have some conversations with some other women. Motherhood is beautiful, it is rewarding, it's such a blessing, but there are also some hard days and times that come along with the title of mother. And we just believe that we can all learn from each other. Everyone has a story to tell, and so we're just hoping that these videos are going to be a blessing to everyone that watches. So, Corica, I know I just said a lot, but did I miss anything before we begin?
No, I think you covered it. You got it.
All right. So, Charlotte, first, just in case people are watching and they don't know you, just tell us a little bit about yourself, like how old you are, your profession, all that stuff, married, all that stuff.
Oh, you did have to go to age first, didn't you? Well, my name is Charlotte Williams, and I am 50 years old. Whoop, whoop, just turned the big 50. And I have been a master cosmetologist ever since 1996 slash restaurant.
Okay. And then, Charlotte, how many children do you have?
I have 2 children that I've birthed, but we have a total of 4 children in our family.
Okay, good.
2 girls and 2 boys.
Okay. Your children are adults now. So just talk to us about what motherhood has been like since your children have become adults.
Well, it's different. It's different. First thing came to mind when I read that question, I said, "The Lord." But being a adult parent is totally different versus when you're raising your children. I was trying to think of a way to compare it, and it's not comparable because they're adults now. They are now making their own decisions, and the best way for me to drive it up, I feel like I'm driving a car on cruise control. You know, like when you get a new car and you put it on cruise control, then you want to let that steering wheel go, but you still have to keep your hands, you know, near it, and every now and then you touch it a little bit and get it back going smooth again. So the same way with the adult children, they're driving themselves now because they're living their lives. But as a mother, I still keep my hand on that cruise control, so that way if I see them rearing a little bit, then I'll touch them, and say whatever need to be said.
Okay, I want to go a little deeper on that, right? Because my oldest is going to be a senior. And I'm a little nervous about him transitioning into adulthood, right? Like, because like you said, he's going to be an adult, is going to be different than how I'm used to parenting him right now. So in those times where you have seen your children maybe going to the left, right? And you try to bring them back to the center, and they don't listen. Like, how do you handle that, especially if and when they have to come back to you and say, Mom, this happened. And, it's like I told you, things. Like, how do you How do you navigate those conversations with your children?
Well, first of all, I had to learn that what did I hate when I was a child? And one of the things I hated was my mom or the guardian to come and tell me, I told you so. You know, they're going to make their own decisions. And they're just like, how they would say, I tell you the stove hot. But then you keep looking at it and the fire looks so pretty. You go over there and then you touch it. So until they make their own mistakes, they're going to go left. But as a parent, knowing that I tried to prevent them from making that same mistake, telling them these are going to be the consequences, then I feel I've done, my duty. So I don't feel bad about it. That's when you have to say, you really not just say it, but do it. You have to give them to the Lord. Lord, these are your children. You gave them to me. Now I'm giving them back. I'm talking to them. I'm trying to tell them, but they're not listening to me. I need you to put your hands on them and guide them. Because sometimes things that we're trying to prevent them from going through, that's what God wants them to go through. And we interfering with God. So I had to realize that even though I didn't want that plan for my child, I can't get in the way of the road that God is taking them because, we all had to go down different streets. And we learned from going down those streets, whether those streets were dirt roads or paved roads. Everyone wasn't smooth. So you just have to be willing to just say, and it's like sacrifice and saying, I'm going to sacrifice and let you make this mistake, because I know that greater is in the end.
Ooh. Yeah, okay. So this is a good conversation. So, how do you, and this is something else that Cork and I have talked about a lot, just for some of our own mistakes, but then also as raising children. You tell your children, right? But they go out and live their own paths. I've made choices and done things that I know my parents were not pleased with, right? It also wasn't a reflection of the way that they raised me, right? It was me just kind of saying, this is what I'm going to do, right? Very much, I'm going to learn the hard way. That used to be my mind back in the day. As a parent, have you dealt with shame may not be the right word, but I'm gonna use it, where your children have made mistakes and you felt that people were judging you or looking at you for those choices that your children made?
Yes, there were often times, and I would say more so when my kids were younger, because life showed me how to remove people. So I learned to not worry about people real early, real early. But before I did, then yeah, I did, because I wasn't concerned about, I actually was putting more emphasis on how those people felt versus how my children felt. But my children showed me, I'm going to show you what I'm going to show them people. And so I had to learn to get over that. But as a few years went on, and I learned to dismiss people and not worry about how people saw me, because that's what I was concerned about. I was concerned about what they thought, what their thoughts was, what the teacher thought, what kind of home did the teacher think my child came from. And I wanted to make sure that they knew that they're in a good environment, because usually with our kids, first thing they say, they're from a broken home, they're from a single parent home. And that may be so, but just because it was a single parent home don't mean they wasn't in a loving environment. Right. So that had nothing to do with the behaviors of my children. Those were just things that the children just wanted to do to get attention, because usually that's what it is. And that's how they acted out. So once I dismissed caring about what people thought, I didn't even care. Somebody called me and said, Charlotte, I think I seen your child too. I said, you probably did. You probably did. I said, because truth of the matter is, my children don't act the same when I'm there. So I'm not gonna tell you that when them. I said, if you seen them, yeah, with them. But thank you for calling me. And then I would tell them, I'm like, y'all already know I done got the phone call. Why are you doing it? What purpose was it? What did you accomplish out of it? Did you feel good about it? And I asked them, how did it make you feel doing that? Because a lot of times we do stuff because we trying to get a reaction, or we trying to make a point. And the kids do the same thing. They do things because either they want a reaction or they want to make a point. I actually got to the point where I had two kids, and then I was like, well, maybe, seem like people that have more kids, their kids act better because they got someone to talk to, someone to play with and stuff. So I started doing fostering care. And doing fostering care is a whole different type of love with loving your children, because those kids have really been through some things. We think our kids have been some things, but usually when a child is in foster care, they have really went through some stuff. So therefore, hurt people hurt people, hurt children hurt people. Those kids will hurt you and take you through some stuff. But through those life lessons, it taught me too, to see and to listen at what's going on, and to, even with the classes we had to take to learn how to deal with those kids, and recognize stuff. It helped me with my own kids. So when I say I got over people, because that's the first thing they tell you, don't be worried about what your neighbors think. If you're looking for the perfect little household, then you don't, that's not something you want to do, because your focus has to be on the children and not the folks.
That's good. Talk to
It is.
Talk to us a little bit about your upbringing, right? The way that you were raised and what you took from your upbringing with your children, whether that be good or bad.
One of the things I took from my upbringing, because I was raised during the era where you spank your kids. Now, do I think that was good or bad? It's good in a way, and it's bad in a way. Do I believe in spanking the kids? Yes, I do. I still do to this day. Even with the grandkids, I tell them, Granny will pop you. Not to the point where you're abusing the child, but you have to know limits. Because sometimes spanking children, when they're after attention, they want you to spank them. And that's something I had to learn with the foster kids, because you weren't allowed to spank them. And I'm like, why? How are you supposed to discipline them? And you had to learn that when a child wants attention, they don't care whether it's good attention or bad attention. They just want the attention. So if they do something and you're giving them attention, even though you're fussing and calling at little Johnny and getting ready to tear him up, you looking, yeah, you go get it. I'm gonna give you what you're asking for. But he's just wanting that attention, that one-on-one time. So it didn't matter to him or she that the attention wasn't good attention. It's just that they wanted attention. So something said, if I act up, she go come to the school. I'm gonna get 5 more extra minutes with my mama. So he's acting up so I can come to the school. He didn't care that I was coming over there 38 with horns on my head. It was just the fact that she came. That, children cry out in different ways. So then we find ourselves always wanting to discipline them. And so I had to learn that, okay, now he's just wanting attention, no matter whether it's good or bad. So you have to switch it up. You have to switch it up. You have to find other ways and other means other than the punishment of spanking to give them, disciplinary actions and get your point across. If that makes sense to you.
Yeah, I definitely think it does. I think that having my children now, especially with their age gap, and their personalities being so different, I'm constantly having to shift gears and be like, okay, I'm talking to Jordan, or I'm talking, to Lennox. And so like, I got to handle this in this way, right? Because Jordan can respond to something differently, right? Like Jordan don't like all that yelling. He's not used to it, right? He take it a little more personal. With Lennox, just like, I don't
Whatever.
know. Like say what you're
Yeah.
gonna say, but like that's not gonna
Nice
change
day.
anything. And so it's just very interesting in how I think having some awareness, right? And like what your child may be needing from you, and knowing that each child is different, and how you discipline them and how you engage and interact with them as well.
And it takes time too. It takes time. Like Corian is 15, bro, in his seat. Now Corian would respond to me whipping him, like he would get it, but Rowan don't respond to that. Like you whoop Rowan and his feelings are hurt. You don't love him, like he go real deep, real deep with it. So I'm like, okay, okay, so we this something different. So I gotta take something from him. I gotta let him know that, when you act like this, then you hurt my feelings. That's the kind of stuff that gets to him. He responds to that type of stuff because he don't want to hurt my feelings. But that whooping stuff, that's pretty much out the window. That defeating the whole purpose of disciplining him. So children are different. They don't respond to the same thing. You kind of have to navigate to figure out what it is that each one responds to. So that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now
So,
Ryan, when he was younger, and I would give him a decision. I would tell him, I would say, because Ryan was very intelligent. So, you have to see where your children at. You had to meet them where they at. And I would ask him, I said, well, I tell you what, Ryan, you did what you did. So you tell me what is fair for punishment. Now, in the beginning, that worked because he was like, well, if I was a parent, this is what I would want to do. And, I said, well, that's what we go do then. That's your punishment. Then he'd be like, but I don't want you. I'm like, but you said it. You said it. So that's what we're going to do. Then he got real smart with it. And he realized that when he would say, put him on punishment or something like that, that was going to last for days. But he knew that when he got a spanking, that lasts for minutes. Yeah, so he would tell me, he started saying, Jack on and spank me. He would go get the switch on the bed. He would say, Jack on and spank me. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna spank you. We go back to the punishment thing. He'd be like, no, mom, you asked me, you supposed to let me tell you. I'm like, no, because the spanking ain't gonna last but a few minutes. And then you'll be back to doing the same thing because you actually become immune to the spanking. So when they become immune to the spankings, they want the spankings because they can sit there. I whipped him one time. A tear wouldn't even come. He was like, like he was counting. He had them mentally blocked it out. And then he was like, thank you. Go ahead on. Then it clicked to me. I can't do this no more because this ain't even phasing it, boy. This ain't even phasing. But even before Greensboro started doing uniforms, that was our thing. He was in uniform. You act up, you're wearing uniforms. You do good. On Friday, you get to pick out what you want to wear. And that worked it well, because he really didn't like the uniforms. And he said that some of his friends teased him. And I was still hurt with doing that sometimes because kids are cruel. So even when we're trying to discipline our children and find different ways, we have to be mindful of the way times are now. Things aren't the same. And he would tell me they teasing me, or now when I get in trouble for doing something to them because they teasing me, or you go punish, what you go do, stuff like that. And it hurted me, and I had to also not let him see when he could push my button. But for him to tell me that was hurtful as a parent, for me to think that, I was sending my son into the lion's den for kids to pick on him and stuff. So, yeah. So it's that childbearing and reason is hard. It's hard. It's not easy. It's hard. You have your bipolar moments, and sometimes you just have to go in the room, and it's been plenty times I would turn the music up because I love those two. but I would go in my room and I would get a pillow, and just scream and cry. And then I would get myself together and I have to come back out there and be mom because I couldn't take away being that I'm now a mom, but I didn't want my children to see that I was having those breakdowns. Even with the teachers, one day I think I went off on a teacher because they would always call, and I wanted the teacher to call, but I had gotten to the point where I was like, do my children ever do anything good? I said, you all call me day in and day out. And mind you, I want you to call me because I want to know what they was doing. And usually then I was going to school probably 4 days out the week. I was volunteered and everything because I didn't want to be one of them parents where the teacher said, well, they don't never come or, stuff like that. So I was real active. But they would call and they always had negative reports. I'm like, what did he do good? What did she do good? Did she write a name right? Stuff like that. And I'm like, thank you for calling, but don't always call me with bad stuff. Tell me something good. So that way when he gets home, little Johnny or little Ashley, you can say, your teacher called today and they were proud of you, stuff like that. But when you don't have a good report, I don't even think they're thinking about that. They just want you to help them to be able to, to handle what's going on at school.
Yeah. What would you say has been the biggest challenge for you as a mother or in motherhood?
You mean just being a mother, period?
Yeah.
Being a mother, being a mother. I got pregnant at the age of 14. So therefore I was a teen mother, and teen mother, 99%, we're going to be single parent mothers at that age. So yes, I was pregnant at 14 and had my first child at 15. So being a teenage mom and then falling back on what you said, dealing with family and people, because now my mom probably feeling shameful and at the same time trying to show love. And my mother, she was from a large family. My grandmother had 18 kids, 16 of them lived. So therefore they were taught how to be loved on. They were showed love by being fed with clothes on their back and go, and that's it. So they couldn't give what they hadn't been given. And it took me a long time to learn that because I think all the way up till in my 30s, I asked my mom, I'm like, do you love me? And she was like, what you mean, do I love you? I took care of you, didn't I? And I was like, yeah, but you never told me. Like my mom never just come out and say, Charlotte, I love you, stuff like that. And so in return, I tried to do different with my children. And I tried to do even 3 times different with the grandchildren, because I know that to break that cycle, somebody has to start. Because if my mama wasn't giving open love like that, and she didn't give it at me, if I don't give it to my children, they're not going to know how to pass it down to their children. So I try to do that, differently. And that was tough. That's tough. 15 with a kid and then you don't feel love, but you're expected to love that baby and to be a loving mother. So what you're learning about love and giving is what you're seeing on TV. And I thank God that back then they didn't allow all the violence on TV like they do now and show you how mean mothers really can be. Because that's kind of what I set the pace from, from seeing stuff like that, from watching Andy Griffin and Aunt B and, stuff like that. Because that's all we had, because we weren't getting it like that. At least I wasn't getting it like that. Now, do I think my mom loved me? Yeah. And I think that she loved me and she showed me to the best of her ability.
I think it's good that you've been able to realize that and that you are intentionally putting in the work and the effort to break the cycle. Especially because Ashley has 3 girls, right? Who
Mm-hmm.
will be mothers one day as well, right? And so you want to
That's
make
right.
sure that they're seeing that good example of, not just showing love, but also telling
Right.
their children that they love them as well. So I think that's great.
Oh yeah.
Um, as a mother, it sometimes can, because you have to do so many things as a mom, it can sometimes be consuming of you as a person. How have you, over the years, maintained your identity as Charlotte, as a woman, outside of just being a mother to your children?
I
Oh,
did.
hold on before you answer that though, because right now you're a wife, mother, grandmother, cosmetologist, business owner, first lady. So you got a lot of roles right now. So I'm really interested to hear on how you maintain being Charlotte as well, because that has to be a task. It has to be.
That's the now. But as being a young mom, I didn't have an identity. I didn't even know who Charlotte was. I did not. All I knew was I wanted more for my children. And I think that hurt my children instead of helping them because I was caught up on doing things that weren't did for me as a child. So things that I didn't receive, um, whatever I thought, we didn't have Facebook back then, but from looking at neighbors or hearing other um, young ladies my age talk about their families and stuff, whatever I thought I should have been getting, then I tried to make sure that I gave it to my children. And I got really caught up in trying to make sure that they had a perfect life and was missing life.
Mm.
I really missed a lot of life, my life, and enjoying their lives because I worked all the time. It was at one time I was working like 3 jobs. I was working actually in Greensboro at Ingles. I was the morning setup person for the deli. Then I would leave there. I would go to Davis Brothers Cafeteria in Madison in the evening. And then I would get off there. And then I would go to Athens to the poultry. And I worked 3rd shift there. And I did that for quite some time. And I kept, if not 2 jobs, 3. But doing that, trying to provide for the children, because remember, I'm still a single parent. And Ashley's father was not there in her life. Now, when Ryan came, it was better. But during the period when Ashley was little, it was like, I just felt like I'm all she got.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to make sure that she had the best little life as a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So I didn't have an identity. I was just mom. And the older people, actually, even my grandmother and my mom too, they was like, don't let her call you mama. Don't let people know you're a mama. Yeah. And that was so hurtful, but I was so rebellious. I was like, I didn't tell them that, but I was like, these fools must be crazy. Not finna let my baby not call me mom. And see, my mom didn't want us to call her mom. We had to address her by her nickname, and her nickname was Lean. And she would be so mad at me. Out her 3 children that she had, I was the only one that never addressed her by her name. I call her mama. But to this day, my 2 brothers, they call my mom by her name, even when we're in conversation about it. They don't say, you been to mom's grade. They say, you been to Lean grade. But that's what she wanted. But I would not give her that because she wasn't understanding. I was already not feeling like I was receiving what I should have as a child and her a mom, and then to take away the mom, that I couldn't go to grasp with that. So I made sure when my kids try to call me by my name, I would not answer. I would not answer. I wouldn't answer. Fear. I wouldn't even act like I could just tone them out. And then they caught on real quick. They be like, "Mama." And when they call me mama, then I would just light up. And that was like one of my joys, being called a mama. Same way with granny. They were like, "You let them kids call you granny?" I'm like, "Y'all just don't know. That's the best thing in the world to hear them say granny." And it was so funny. We had our grandson this weekend, and my husband, he was saying Charlotte. He said, "That's not Charlotte. That's Granny. You call her." And I thought it was so funny. I said, but even as a little child, and Halo is only 2, he knows that I don't like not being called Granny. He know that means something to me. So he's like, "Don't call her Charlotte. That's Granny." And Corey, he was like, "Well, okay, Granny." Yeah, so I really lost myself. I did.
How did you and we're running out of time on the Zoom, by the way, but now where you are, do you feel that you have your identity back now that your children are grown and you're a grandmother and
Yes. Now I know who Charlotte is. Charlotte is a child of God. I am a child of the Most High God. I am a wife. I am a mother. I am an entrepreneur. I stand by you. Charlotte can do all things through Christ. Christ, if you call him up, he probably gonna say, "If this chick try me one more time," I put it to the test. That scripture, it just stuck with me, that you can do all things through Christ. And I said, "Well, Lord, they say your word would not come back void." Anytime somebody would tell me, "You can't do this or that can't be did," the devil is a liar. I'm going to get me a little tablet. I'm going to write it out from A to Z. I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to be praying all the way. I'm going to say, "Now, Lord, you said that I can do all things. So I need you to show me what I need to do. Show me where I need to go. Show me who I need to talk to." I get to talking to the air and saying, "Where you at, Lord? Where you at? Now I don't know where I'm going." And he has never failed. He has never failed me. He showed me who I was in him. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. I know that with God, you can do anything. You can actually do anything. Just have a little talk with Jesus. He'll send you on your way. So yes, 50 years old. Now I know who I am. And I feel I'm enjoying my best life.
That's a blessing. That's a blessing.
It
Yeah.
is. Last question, and we got 4 minutes before this Zoom cut us off. What would you say to either your younger self or a younger mom? Like, what advice would you give to other mothers?
Myself first. If I could go back and I could talk to myself, because I beat myself up a lot, I would say, "Charlotte, well done. Well done. Just keep depending on Jesus. Well done." To a new mom or a person that has kids now, I would tell you, you cannot get time back. You cannot. I don't care what you give your kids. Trust me, I've given my kids everything I could possibly give them. And they'll turn around and say, "You ain't give me that." They forget what you give them, but they have never forgotten the times when we were together. Time. Stop focusing on material things and gifts and give them your time, because usually when they're acting up, that's what they wanted. They want your time. They want your time, and they want your attention. You can't get that back. You can't.
I love that. I think that's such wisdom. And I love how you didn't try to beat yourself up on your younger self, that you were like, well done, like I really, really like that. And I think the time piece is so important because I think we live in a time now with social media where people love to post what they're doing. And sometimes I don't know if it's always for the right reason, right? But like they want to make sure, you know, we did this, we're gonna put it on social media, right? And it's like if there was no social media, would you still do this if you didn't have a place to post that? So I think that the time piece is very important. Corka, you got something?
No, this has been great. I loved it. So much wisdom. Thank you so much, Charlotte. It has really been great. It has.
Yes, Charlotte, thank
Thank
you
you
so
all for
much.
the invite.
You're
And I
welcome.
hope it helps someone, you know.
Me too.
Absolutely. I think that it
Don't help.
will. I think that people are gonna watch and they're gonna be able to take nuggets of what you share and use it in their lives. I know after every video, me and Cork were like, that was good. You know, we
Yeah.
talk about things that we learned from it ourselves, which is part of the goal of this entire thing. So thank you again for coming on. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe and stay tuned for the next video.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.